Greetings, this is J.R. Dickey. Thanks for tuning in to our podcast. And by the way, don't forget our website, graceandtruth.net. I hope you're having a great day, but if not, hang with me. It's about to get better. Okay, today we're going to have a message that is about pictures. I call it Picture This. Let's get started. It begins with, "And supper being ended, the devil having already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. And Jesus, knowing that the Father had given him all things in his hand, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper, laid aside his garments, took a towel, and girded himself. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, 'Lord, are you washing my feet?' Jesus answered and said to him, 'What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this.' Peter said to him, 'You shall never wash my feet.' Jesus answered him, 'If I do not wash you, you have no part in me.' Well, Simon Peter said to him, 'Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.' Jesus said to him, 'He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you.' For he knew who would betray him, and therefore he said, 'You are not all clean.' So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, 'Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've given you an example that you should do as I have done to you.'" All that's from John 13. Jesus, the living Word, gave us many pictures, many examples to learn from, taking on the menial task of washing the disciples' feet, including Judas's, was one such picture. I thought of this as I read the following passage. It says, "But Mary stood outside by the tomb, weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the tomb. And she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. Then they said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping?' She said to them, 'Because they've taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they've laid him.' Now when she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, and did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?' She, supposing him to be the gardener, said to him, 'Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you've laid him, and I will take him away.' And Jesus said to her, 'Mary.' She turned and said to him, 'Rabboni,' which is to say, teacher. Jesus said to her, 'Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I'm ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God.'" Now, it was those two words in that passage, "my brethren," that caught my attention. Another picture. Jesus could have said, "my disciples," or "my closest followers," or even "my friends," or even "those bozos who don't believe you." But he chose the familiar term, brothers. And that, in turn, sent me back to one of my favorite stories in Genesis. Now, I'll summarize for you. Joseph was one of 12 brothers, sons of Jacob, also called Israel. He was Jacob's favorite son, and the others who were older hated that. He had dreams of being promoted over his brothers, and when he shared them, his brothers were not happy. One day, having been sent by Dad to check on his bros, who were tending the flocks, they threw him in a pit and consequently sold him to traders as a slave. Well, he ended up in Egypt in the house of a notable man as a servant and was treated well. Everything was put in his care. The wife of this notable man, however, was intent on betting Joseph and when he refused, she claimed that he had raped her. Again, Joseph wound up in another pit, a prison. But there also he ended up being put in charge of the care of all the prisoners. Well, two of Pharaoh's servants, a butler and a baker, were also thrown into this prison, and they both had dreams. Now Joseph was known as an interpreter of such dreams, and so they sought him out. His interpretations for both men came true. And later, upon being restored to his office, the butler told Pharaoh about Joseph when the king had troubling dreams himself. Joseph was brought out of the prison, cleaned up, and presented to Pharaoh, and greatly impressed the king with his interpretive ability. In fact, the king was so impressed that he promoted Joseph to the prime minister role in Egypt. He put him in charge of all the king's assets and was second only to Pharaoh and all the land. Well, this is where Joseph's own earlier dreams concerning his family came true, for as he had foretold to Pharaoh, a severe drought forced his own Hebrew clan to journey to Egypt for food. At that time, they did not recognize Joseph, but he recognized them and also noted that his one younger brother, Benjamin, wasn't among them. Well, long story short, he put one brother in prison and forced them to bring Benjamin to Egypt. And when they did, he finally revealed himself, and of course, they were aghast. They were sure that he would kill them all or throw them in prison for their treachery against him years earlier. But Joseph completely forgave them and reunited their temporarily imprisoned brother. Later, their old father, Jacob, was brought to Egypt, and he too was reunited with his favorite son. Friends, the picture is the brothers, and the message is forgiveness. For many reasons, Joseph is a prophetic picture of the other favorite son of the Father, Jesus Christ. And I think the primary application is indeed to the Jewish people, but every believer is included. As the brothers of our Savior, we are charged with following his example, his picture. We are to serve each other in humility rather than seeking notoriety. Whether it's in the pulpit or in the pews, most, if not all, Christians today seem to be desiring recognition from others, pats on the back, successful ministry. How many do you truly know serve others in selfless humility every day? When we toss Christ's example to the side while claiming to serve him, we are behaving like Joseph's brothers and like Christ's disciples before his resurrection. We're called to serve and to minister forgiveness. Our mindset should not be, it's about me. Not as a believer. It's about him in me, living in and through me, loving others, speaking truth in love, washing, i.e., serving others through me. We have to let go of the me mindset, both in pulpits and in the pews. That's the only way the church is healthy. Now may the Lord grant you peace in the midst of any storm and faith to trust him, Look for our next podcast, and may you realize more of His grace today.